Okay, here's a typical Pythagorean theorem problem. So it says that we're going to let A and B the lengths of the legs of a right triangle. And they're telling me that one of the legs is 2 and the other one is 1. So first of all, let's just sketch a picture of a right triangle. So a right triangle has two sides called legs that come together to form a right angle. And then the third side across from that right angle is called the hypotenuse. It's always across from the right angle. And generally when we label right triangles, we call the hypotenuse C, or label it C. And then the two legs, we generally call them A and B. And in this particular problem, they're telling us that A has a length of 2. We don't have units on this one, so 2 feet or 2 inches or 2 meters. And then side B is 1. First thing I look at this and I say, well, side C, how long would that be? Looks to me like it's got to be longer than 2. It's always the longest side. So it looks to me like it's somewhere between 2 and 3 units long. So that's always a good thing to do when you're doing these problems, is kind of estimate first. So we'll write down the Pythagorean theorem, one of the most famous theorems in arithmetic. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Pythagorean theorem. So I write the formula down and then I like to make the substitutions down below. So we've got, it says A is 2, I've got to square that. B is 1, we've got to square that. And that's equal to not C, but C squared. Let's see, 2 squared, 2 times 2 is 4. 1 times 1 is 1, that's equal to C squared. And then finally, we get 5 is equal to C squared. So the length of the hypotenuse is not 5. The length of the hypotenuse squared is 5. So we've got one final step here, and that is to find out what C is. To undo a square, you take the square root. So the square root of C squared is C, and so we find out that the length of C is the square root of 5, which is somewhere more than 2, because 2 squared is 4, and less than 3, because 3 squared is 9. Now it says here that they want the answer as a decimal rounded to 3 places. So I've got my calculator up here. You've got to figure out how to do square roots on your own calculator. On mine, it's above the square key. So I have to hit the second key and then select that key, and there's the square root. Notice it put a left parenthesis in there for me. I want the square root of 5. It's always a good idea to put the closing parenthesis on. That first one's called the opening parenthesis, and we're going to put the closing one on before I hit the enter key. And so there it is as a decimal. It says to round to 3 places. So we would say that C is approximately, since we're rounding here, I'll put a squiggly equal, 2.236. Again, we should put units on it, but it's not giving us the units here. So oftentimes we just list it as a U, 2.236 units. And again, because that next place is a 0, I would leave the 6 as 6. You wouldn't round it up to 7. So there you go.